The doc's saying, I don't know if we can save your foot. I'm like in shock, obviously, right? I'm going to have to amputate your foot. I basically shattered everything from my L1 to L5. My complete back has been put back together. I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm doped up. The sun comes through the blinds and the lights hit the bookcase. And it was Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. I just was obsessed with this book.
What was the book about?
It's about the 96 commercial disaster on Everest. And I just couldn't put this book down. I wake up, I'm all sweaty. I look down, I see the book. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to go climb Everest. I met this kid, Keith, stepped on an IED, missing his leg well above the knee. And I was just like, hey, you want to go climb a mountain? He's like, well, I got no leg, man. I'm like, no, we'll figure it out, man. We can do this. And then we started training, fast forward, and he just wants to turn around and quit. And I'm like, just give me just 30 more steps and we'll turn around, we'll go home. He's like, that's it, I'm done. And I go, look over your shoulder. And he turns around and he looks over and he goes, is that what I think it is? I said, yeah. He got to the summit and he threw his arms up and he's screaming and he's yelling, I did it.
Tim Medvetz.
Yes.
That's Medvetz.
It's weird.
The
right?
veteran.
I know, it's strange.
It's meant to be.
I know.
It's meant to be. So, man.
It's not my stage name either, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not an actor. I don't have a headshot. And that is my real birth name.
You talked about hitting rock bottom after your accident. Was addiction ever part of that chapter? And what was your turning point?
No, addiction was not in the picture, but I guess we got to kind of rewind the tape a little bit. When I was 15 years old, I probably grew up in a small town, suburbia, New Jersey. I could see from the highest point in our town, I could see New York City. It always kind of drew me. And then probably 12 years old, smoked my first joint. And then that just sent me onto a path of multiple arrests, simple assaults, destruction of property, theft, fake identification, possession of drugs, intent to distribute, probably about 12 arrests by the time I was 15. And then the last one I was caught with, back then it was mescaline, it was acid, it was Valium, it was coke, it was hash, it was weed, all of which was in my leather vest.
How old are you?
15.
No, how old are you now?
Now I'm 52.
Okay, so you missed the whole Quaalude thing.
Yeah, that was before my time.
Yeah.
For sure. But, get in front of the judge. Judge basically looks at, I've been arrested 12 times by the time I was 15 years old. You got a problem, kid. Like, this is it. I'm putting the brakes. Says you got two choices. You're going 2 years in juvie, or you're going to go to a rehab, a lockdown facility. And so, of course, I took the lockdown facility, rehab. Next thing you know, I got police escorted to Newark Airport, got on a plane to Cleveland, Ohio, checked in, had a policeman and a rep from the hospital escort me to there. I'll never forget. I walked in there with the clothes on my back, right from jail, clothes on my back and a carton of Newport cigarettes. Walked in, the doors slammed, and that was it. It was called St. Luke's, and it was in Cleveland, Ohio. It was right down the street from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And after 2 months, 60 days locked down, I got out. Then I had to go to a 6-month outpatient program in Summit, New Jersey. I had to go to meetings. I had to get piss tests from the probation officer. I had to get my meeting signed off.
Did you ever figure out that you could sign off on your own meetings?
I didn't. Back then it was, yeah. We had pagers back then, so things were a little different then.
Uh-huh.
But, and then after, the whole year of that 12 months, went to my last meeting. They signed off on it. I walked out of the meeting, called my buddy, he picked me up in his Z28 Camaro. Actually, it was an IROC Z. Picked me up. We bought an eighth of weed. I took my Easy Widers. I rolled up a joint. And that was it. And I never looked back. And for me, it was, there's two things going to happen to you the minute you start using again. You're going to end up in jail or you're going to die because you have a disease. Something didn't really click with that. Someone's telling me that for every single day for a year.
Right.
And so I never really bought into that. What I did buy into is that I needed a kick in the ass. I needed somebody to pump the brakes. I needed somebody to slow me down. And that's exactly what that did. And so that judge literally saved my life. Right. I don't know where I would have went after that, but I knew that the path I was on, I needed a kick in the ass. and rehab and the outpatient halfway house and the meetings, all of that 100% saved my life.
Okay, but hold on a second. Let's go back. You said that the minute you got out of your court-ordered juvenile rehab, that you immediately got in the car and scored.
Bought an eighth of skunk weed and a pack of Easy Widers and rolled up a joint in his IROC in New Jersey, listened to Vanilla Ice, rolled it up.
Okay, we'll keep the Vanilla Ice between us. What about but where did it take you there? When did you got out, you started smoking weed, and how did it escalate from there?
Well, then I, got my driver's license and then, continued getting arrested, but for more fighting, things like that, not drugs.
Well, you were drinking, so,
yeah.
And if you're drinking and doing drugs, you're fighting.
Correct. Anyway, 18.
You were winning. I was losing.
Yeah, I guess I was winning.
Yes, you were.
Because I never crashed my car, nobody got hurt, and then I'm going to jail. I didn't get arrested for drugs again. 18, moved into New York City, got a job bouncing at the nightclubs, and then, when you're a bouncer in nightclubs, the whole drinking and drugging doesn't really work. You got to be on top of your game. In New York City, you're fighting every single night, throwing people out of the clubs. So, and then 21 years old, moved to Brazil, started training with the Gracie brothers. I wanted to be a big cage fighter, and that kept me down in Rio for 2 years of my life. And then my life went on to travel in the world. And then when I was 28, I came out to California, packed up the motorcycle, put the old lady on the back, drove out here, pulled into LA, didn't know anybody, figured we had enough money to last us about 6 months, and then we would go back to New York. And then 6 months turned into, I've been out here for like 25 years now.
How bad did the drug thing get?
It didn't. It was bad when I was, from basically 13 to 15. 15 is when it really peaked.
Right.
And then after that, it never became a problem. It was, get high, drink on a Saturday night, back in the gym Monday morning, back to work. That was kind of how it's been, for my entire adult life.
So tell me about the accident.
So fast forward, I'm living out in Los Angeles, and I'm in the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club. Best times of my life. Life is great. I'm building motorcycles. I'm in Los Angeles.
I heard you're building them for celebrities.
Oh, man, you did so many.
Did you ever build one for Johnny Depp?
No, actually. Never built one for Johnny.
Nicolas Cage?
Nicolas Cage, absolutely.
Well, that's only because Nicolas Cage will get $1 in his pocket and it flies right out of the pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy's never seen anything that he didn't want to buy.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that one. I remember when he actually walked in my shop, which is I thought he was the coolest guy. He pulled up in a Lambo. It was like
repossessed the next day.
Yeah, it was like a weird orange, yellow or some shit. And he got out and he had purple snake leather pants on and a purple snake leather jacket with his glasses on. He came walking into my shop and it was just like everything, the music just stopped and everybody just turned and looked. And he actually pulled it off too. He didn't look like a tool.
He's a star.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a legit
and super nice guy. So, and I believe at that time he was dating Roseanne
Barr?
Arquette. Yeah.
And Roseanne Barr.
No, Arquette. Roseanne Arquette, one of the Arquette sisters he was dating. Uh-huh. And he bought her had a Buell Blast. Buells were like a single 500 cylinder. It's a little bike that was made by Harley.
Mm-hmm.
Bought one of those for her, and then I built them an FXR. Yeah. So anyway, that just started my whole career in the motorcycle world. My entrance to LA. I came out here. I wasn't coming out here to get famous. I wasn't even planning on staying. And so I just got into the motorcycle world, and it just, was doing great. Making a couple $100,000 a year. I'm jeans and t-shirt. I'm in LA. I got a hot chick. I'm living up off the Sunset Strip. Life was good. Joined the motorcycle club. Things are great. I'm traveling all over the world with the club. Everything is great. And then, bam, pickup truck pulls out in front of me, doing about 100 miles an hour, racing through the streets. Bam, lights out.
Wow.
Yeah. Ended up in Northridge Trauma Center. And it was on September 10th, 2001. And everybody knows where they were on 9/11. So it was the question, where were you at 9/11? Well, for me, 9/11 wasn't that pivotable of a day. For me, it was 9:10 because at 7:30 at night, I crashed my bike. I remember laying on the side of the road. My foot was next to my ear, bleeding out of my head, coming down my eyes, like just couldn't feel anything from my waist down. Raced me to the hospital. You're probably going to lose your leg. We don't know what else is going on, blah, blah, blah. And I remember I had like 12 of my brothers came to the emergency room and they're all like my size. And the doc's saying, I don't know if we can save your foot. I don't know if we can save your foot. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What? I'm like in shock, obviously, right? I'm bleeding everywhere. He's like, I don't think I can save your amputation. I'm going to have to amputate your foot. And I just turned to him and I says, I wake up tomorrow morning, I better have a fucking foot or I'm going to kill you. And then, he's got like 12 Hell's Angels around in the same room. Well, yeah, doc, try and save the foot, And then the doc was like, okay. And then boom, lights out, mask goes on, surgery room. And then I open my eyes and I remember opening my eyes and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I'm alive, check. First thing I do is the last thing I remember is him telling me he's going to cut off my foot. I look down, I see my toes in a cast. I'm like, okay, great, check. Got my foot, I'm alive. And then a hospital, check. And then I start like noticing there's all these doctors and nurses in my room. I'm like, what are they doing? And I'm up, but I got a tube down my throat, machine's breathing for me, so I can't speak. And I'm up and I'm like, hey, I'm over here, help, I'm over here. But they can't hear me. And they're all staring up at the ceiling. I'm like, what the fuck are they watching? What are they doing? I need some attention over here. And as I like roll my eyes up, I look up and on the television, everybody's glued to the TV and it's like 9:30 in the morning and the Twin Towers are coming down.
Right.
And this is terrible to say, but my first reaction was like, turn that shit off. I got my own problems here. Come on, I'm over here. Not realizing obviously the extent of, how many people died, lost their lives and everything that happened. I was just more concerned like, oh, this is all about me right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
as it should have been.
Yeah. And boom, next thing you know, 4 months in a wheelchair, 3 different hospitals, 6 months total in a wheelchair, never going to ride a motorcycle again, never ride a horse again, never going to do this, do that. And I'm at that point when I got to that wreck, I was a 275 pound, 6'5" Hell's Angel, bouncing, building motorcycles, hot chick girlfriend, collection of Harley. Like life was good.
So let me ask you a question. How the hell do you start scaling Mount Everest 5 times after this accident?
Yeah, I mean, probably drugs, alcohol. Essentially, I got
get back on that. What kind of drug? You mean pain medication?
Yeah. So I get out of the hospital. So now I'm like, this big tough guy. Now I'm being pushed around in a wheelchair, but he's feeling sorry for me. And then I, graduate to the walker. That thing with the little tennis balls and shit, right? Yeah. Nothing cool about that. Then I go
cooler. It's cool. Yeah. It was cooler than the crutches. It doesn't look cooler.
No,
but it's better. Because you fall on your ass a couple times with the crutches. How many times you fall with the crutches?
Oh, man, so many times.
Yeah, I just hate that.
So then I
never fell with the walker.
No, but I graduated from the walker to the crutches.
Right.
Then I graduated from the crutches to the cane, and that was cool, right? Now I'm riding my motorcycle again. I got a turtle shell surrounding because my back was completely shattered. I broke almost every bone in my body.
What do you mean a turtle shell?
It was when you have, I basically shattered everything from my L1 to L5. My complete back has been put back together and bolted, mesh cage, titanium bolts. But I had to wear this to keep my back straight. It was a shell, like a Ninja Turtle shell.
How long ago was this?
Well, this was, 25 years ago. So it was done, right after 9/11, right? And so I had to wear that. I had a knee brace.
I had call you Turtle.
I had my girlfriend at the time. But so I went through this whole, 6 months and then I started walking again. And then it was like, okay, you got to start going to rehab. And I walk into this rehab center and I just remember like all these old people and, they give you the little ball thing and you gotta squeeze the ball, right? And I was just looking around going, what the am I doing in here, man?
Because you're used to lifting big weights.
Yeah. And I'm like, this ain't for me. And I walked out but I had some serious injuries. So I had to numb the pain to pretend that I wasn't hurt. I never got hurt. No way. I'm still going to be the tough guy I was before the accident. So 5 Vicodins a day, 10 Vicodins a day. The tolerance starts going 15 a day, 20 a day, whiskey to go to sleep. it was just this self-destructive phase for a year. Got on the bike. I went to, all over America on my motorcycle, and just anything to numb the pain. And then finally, I'm like back in Hollywood. My chick dumped me. The club had enough of me. I was completely out of control. That's when you're in a bad place. When the Hells Angels had enough of you, you're in a bad place.
Why did they have enough of you?
Had enough of me because I was out of control. I was drugged up. I just wasn't in the right mind.
There we go.
I was in the right mind. I wasn't, life was just took a turn.
It's because drugs affect your decision making and they make you
get out of control. I mean, I'm swinging fists at guys in a bar with this turtle shell on and a knee brace on. Like, what are you doing? Slow the fuck down.
Right.
Now it brings me back to when I was 15, right? And now the judge said, okay, son, pump the brakes here. Boom, sends me away. But now, all these years later, I didn't have a judge telling me, you're going to rehab. So I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm doped up on the pills, bottle of booze, and all of a sudden this sun comes through the blinds in my little 1-bedroom apartment in Hollywood, right off of Melrose, and the lights hit the bookcase. And there's only one book in that case. One book. I wasn't a big reader,
Uh-huh.
And it was Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. And my girlfriend got it for me like a couple years prior to that. I just, thanks, this is great. I think you would like it because I always climbed it. Boom. I grabbed it, stumbled over to the bookcase, grabbed it, started reading as I'm down in the booze, and I just was obsessed with this book. I couldn't put it down.
What was the book about?
It's about the 96 commercial disaster on Everest where 9 people lost their lives. And I was just completely enthralled with this book. I mean, it was about death and mayhem. And I would go through the book and they would talk about, we just arrived at Camp 2. And I would go back to the front of the book where it had the map of the route and where the camps were. And I just couldn't put this book down all night till 3, 4 in the morning. I finally finished it. I closed the book. I pass out, right? I wake up, I'm all sweaty and doped up and just and all of a sudden it was just like, I look down, I see the book. I'm like, that's it. This is it. No more squeezing the ball thing at the rehab. I'm done. I'm going to go climb Everest.
That's a bitchin', Dylan.
And I grabbed my Costco-sized jug of Vicodins, grabbed every single bottle in the house, went into the bathroom, dumped everything down the toilet, flushed the toilet, walked out, knocked on my neighbor's door, said, hey, I'm subletting my apartment. I'm leaving for Nepal. He goes, what are you going to do there? I said, I'm going to go climb Everest. And that's a really funny reaction when you tell a friend that, right?
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, 30 days later, I put all my shit in the garage, subletted my apartment, bought a one-way ticket to Nepal, flew up there, got all my climbing gear in Kathmandu, flew up to the Everest region, shacked up with this Sherpa family, and went on this journey to learn how to climb 8,000 meter peaks. And so climbed all the peaks around Everest in this whole 1 year. No cell phone, no Wi-Fi, completely off the grid. And then 3 years of training and, selling all the motorcycles, maxing out the cars, all the money, and took off to Mount Everest. And
how long did it take you in those practice runs to finally make it to climb Everest?
Well, I didn't want to show up to the mountain not knowing everything. I didn't want anybody to babysit me.
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure that I showed up and I was a complete self-sufficient climber and knew everything, knew how to rescue people myself, knew how to everything, crampons and ice axes and, reading avalanche control, all that shit, and so that took about 3 years of intense training. And then I made my first attempt on Everest in 2006. And then I got about 300 feet from the summit, just missed it.
How do you get a football field away from the peak and not make it?
Well, I was 275 pounds, 6'5", not the actual, size of your average climber.
Right.
And then, the higher you go in altitude, the more your body, there's no oxygen up there. And so the heavier you are, the less oxygen you have. So you don't really want to be that big. So I just got to the point where I was moving so slow and I just was running out of steam. And then finally, you got somebody down at base camp that's watching you and, watching your oxygen levels and you got supplemental oxygen. And then after fighting a little bit about that, I decided to turn around.
But I want to know the psychology of it. Like, forget what those guys were doing. Like, in your head, how long did it take you to get to that point?
2 months.
No. You took 2 months to get to the top. That's how long it takes?
Yeah. It's usually about anywhere from 40 to 60 days.
Okay. So check this out. So you're 2 months up there.
Yeah.
And you're 300 feet away from the prize. Forget them. Yeah. What are you doing internally? You must be going, I got to get there. And then you must have had to, there was something in that moment. Tell me about the conflict that you were having in those last moments.
Well, the big conflict was, the doctor's telling you, I'll never walk again. I'll never ride a motorcycle again.
But that would make you get to the top.
Yeah. Well, it's in the back of your head the whole time. So all these voices in your head saying, you can't do this. You can't, it's not impossible, blah, blah, blah. And then that's just driving you internally, right?
That's right.
But then there's the reality of, being a seasoned climber and knowing when it's time to turn around. Like we have a saying.
How long would it take to have done those last 300 feet?
Last 300 feet at that altitude, just under 29,000 feet, you're moving. Every 30 feet is taking you probably about 10 minutes.
So you're talking about 100 minutes?
You're talking I still had probably another 2-3 hours to go.
An hour and a half by my math.
Yeah.
Okay. An hour.
Especially at my size.
An hour and 40 minutes. So
at least.
So you spent 2 months getting to that point.
Yep.
And then now understand, I know less than anything about this. So, but for the lay person, right?
Yeah.
We're like, hold on a second. You spent 2 months and you got another 100 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes. I need to know, dude. I need to know what happened in that moment to you for you to say, yeah, this is my life. I doing it.
Well, a couple things. First of all, there's an old saying in the climbing world that the summit's only halfway. You still got to get down, right?
That is awesome. Let's back up. How long do you stay at the top before you start going down?
Depends on the weather, but generally 20, 30 minutes, get your photos, have a moment, and then you got to hightail it because you got to get down. When you're on the summit ridge of Mount Everest, it's littered with frozen bodies. There's bodies everywhere up there, dozens of them.
You saw them?
Oh yeah, they're on the route. Like there's tons of them.
Okay, but if can't you just toss them down the hill?
People won't touch them because it's bad juju up there. But if they are close enough to a crevasse or the edge, we'll push them over. But most of them, are let's say 20 feet off the trail, and it's like, what's the point? You're gonna go over, just leave them alone, right? But the crazy thing about all those bodies up there is that it's not a bad way to go because you're perfectly preserved for eternity. Like it's like Walt Disney, right, is in a cryo chamber and shit, right? Just go to Everest. There's like all kinds of bodies they could bring back to life, right? That technology ever comes in. But the crazy thing is that the ravens fly up to the summit ridge up there. So all the bodies that are up there that don't have like their goggles still intact, the ravens peck out their eyeballs. So there's just these frozen bodies down there, like frozen in time with no eyes. It's the creepiest thing. And 99% of those bodies that are up there, they'll make the summit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why you turned around.
Because they got summit fever. They didn't realize that the summit's only halfway. You got to get down. And when you're coming down, if you got nothing left in the tank, if you gave up everything to get to that summit, now you're coming down, like you can get in trouble real quick at that altitude.
Got it.
So that's running through your brain too. And then finally, it's just like the rock comes out of the head. Of course, you got your expedition leader going, you know what, the rate you're moving right now, this is how much oxygen you got in your tank. Like you
have to have a tank of oxygen.
Well, because you're on supplemental oxygen. There's only been probably about 200 people in the world that have climbed Everest without supplemental oxygen.
Well, I don't understand. So you're walking around with that tank, like the guy
scuba diving.
Wait, like the guy like this who doesn't get in the ass.
Yeah, the old guy
with the guy with emphysema pulling the
in the physical therapy place was squeezing the ball thing with the oxygen tank.
Yeah,
kind of, except it's in your backpack.
Really, how heavy is it?
Well, now, I mean, back 50 years ago, it was, those things were like 30, 40 pounds. Now they're weighing in at like 12 pounds, which is still really heavy at that altitude.
Really heavy.
So, but yeah, it's supplemental oxygen is definitely a big factor in a lot of people's summits up there, but it's not going to help you run to the summit. Essentially what supplemental oxygen does, it keeps you warm.
Really?
Yeah. It keeps you thinking a little bit clearer.
So why does it keep you warm?
Because what's happening is you only have a third of the oxygen that's at sea level up there. So like everything is slow motion. Like even just tying your shoes, you have to think about it. Like you essentially have like the brain of a 8-year-old essentially, because your body's dying. So what happens is when your
body's dying.
Yeah, the human body is not made to survive at that altitude. If I were to take you right now in a helicopter and drop you off on the summit of Everest, said hang out here, we'll be back in an hour, you'd be dead by the time I got back.
Shut up.
Cerebral edema, your brain would swell. Pulmonary edema, your lungs would fill with water, and then you would just die.
Why didn't you die?
Because
you trained.
The reason why, it only takes 5 days to climb Everest from the base camp to the summit, right? And
you said it takes 2 years.
It takes 2 months. It takes 2 months. But the reason why it takes 2 months is that you're acclimating to that altitude. So what's happening is when you show up at base camp, 17,700 feet, then you go up to 20,000. You bring some loads up, you drop some tents off, some sleeping bags, then you come back down.
Got it.
And the next 2 days later, you rest, and 2 days later, you go up to 21,000 feet. Then you come back down. When you go to 23,000 feet and you come back down, and you're going back and forth, back and forth. And what's happening is your body's producing red blood cells. And those red blood cells is what you need to stay at that altitude. And so it's like your Lance Armstrongs, all your Tour de France guys are all blood doping, right?
Right.
And what they're doing is they're taking a drug that increases their red blood cells.
So did you ever do that?
No, never did that ever. I wish actually, because it would have made it a lot easier. Sure. But it's the same thing. Like, Lance Armstrong got all this crap about, he's blood doping. They're all blood doping, right? But you still got to train. Like what he did was absolutely one of the greatest athletes to ever live. 8-time, like hats off to the guy. Just because you're taking testosterone or you're taking growth hormone, you still got to put the work in.
And he had the hottest girl at the time ever.
Yeah, so
Sheryl Crow, how cool was she in the day?
Yeah,
you're so cool, by the way. Go on.
So that's what you're essentially doing on Everest, is you're increasing your red blood cells by staying up there, you're acclimating up and down, up and down. And then finally, when the jet stream slows down enough, that's because normally all year round, the winds are blowing between 100 and 200 miles an hour up at 29,000 feet. It's where you fly in a commercial jet from LA to New York, right? And so you're not meant to go up that high, especially the winds. The winds will blow you right off the summit. But when the monsoon season hits, the jet stream slows down to almost nil the winds for about a window of about 1 to 2 weeks. And you have to be completely acclimated by the time that window comes, which is generally somewhere around mid-May. Everybody right now is descending in Nepal right now because all the Everest
are stressing the shit out of me. So I'm not even kidding. I'm like sitting here going, like I'm the one doing it.
Yeah, definitely not Runyon Canyon, right?
I couldn't make it up Runyon Canyon.
Yeah. So
gone.
So back to where I was going with this whole story. So now I come back. I turned around, didn't end up like those frozen bodies up there.
Right.
Because the other thing that we say in the climbing world is the mountain ain't going nowhere. It's going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be there next year, right? So boom, come back home, train. Raise the money again, not cheap.
Raise the money for what?
It's about $75,000 to climb Everest.
Why?
Well, you got a permit that you have to pay. That's about $20,000 just to put your foot on the mountain.
You're kidding.
Yeah. Then you have to have all your supplemental oxygen. You have to have your tanks. You have to have porters. You have to have the Sherpas. You have to bring all your loads there. There's the food there. It's like, and then all your gear, $10,000 in equipment and gear.
It's giving you $75,000 to run up.
You sell everything you own. Because it all comes down to one thing, right? If you want anything bad enough in life, you figure out a way to do it, right?
That's exactly right.
So that's what I did. Whatever. I ended up picking up some sponsors the second year. And so I went back the second year, stood on top, did it. Big F you to the doctors. I'll show you. Came back to town, got back to LA. And then you're just like, okay, you're sitting there with your buddies having a coffee, right? And you're like, so what's next, man? You just climbed all that fucking Everest, man. What's next? Like ballroom dancing. What do you do now, right? And so I'm like, I don't know. So I just kind of started getting into skydiving again. I was like doing scuba diving. I was doing all this like, adrenaline sports. And then it was, I'll never forget it, November 11th, Veterans Day. I'm sitting at home, going through the channels. All of a sudden, there's some kind of big thing going on, ceremony at Arlington Cemetery. And all these injured vets are getting up there and they're speaking, and they're talking about how proud of American they were, and they're missing legs. And this one guy up there was talking, and their Humvee ran over an IED, fire. He was trapped inside the Humvee, burned them. He didn't even look like a human. Survived. And here he is on this podium in Arlington. He's talking about how proud of American he was, and he would go back tomorrow, and he didn't regret one day. And I love this country, man. And he's sitting there, and I'm sitting there on my couch, getting all choked up, and I'm swallowing and trying to I'm wiping the tears. And then it was just boom. It was like the light bulb went off. I was like, man, maybe I got something to offer these guys, right? So started making some phone calls, and then me and a buddy, we went down to Balboa Naval Hospital, which is like the Walter Reed out here in California. And I went down there and got a little tour and met some people. And I remember just having a coffee sitting out in the courtyard. And I remember at that time there was 112 inpatient amputees, all 18, 20-year-old kids, missing limbs, going by me in gurneys, one after the other. Man, it disturbed me. And at that time, I remember the biggest thing on the news was Jay-Z and Beyonce going to Cuba. And I'm like, why is this not on why are we seeing this on the news? This is I just watched 3-4 dozen 20-year-old kids missing limbs. It was disturbing. And I fired up the bike, pulled out of the hospital, drove up the road, pulled into a gas station, bought a pack of Marlboro Reds, sat on the curb and just chain smoked the whole pack. Just couldn't believe what my eyes just seen. And then that was it, man. I was like, I'm gonna do something about this. And started made some phone calls, and I met this kid, Keith, stepped on an IED, missing his leg well above the knee, about halfway up his thigh. And I was just like, hey, you want to go climb a mountain? He's like, well, I got no leg, man. Real funny, big jokes you are. I'm like, no, we'll figure it out, man. We can do this. And then we started training, and fast forward, we're in Russia on a mountain called Mount Everest, and we're in the whole month we're on that mountain. All he wants to do is go back. I want to go back. I want to go home. This is enough. I can't do this. Come on, man. You got this. We can do this. And then finally, we're going up. It's summit day, and we're going, and he's just... his stump is blistering and bleeding, and he just wants to turn around and quit. And I'm like, just give me just 30 more steps and we'll turn around, we'll go home. And then he goes 30 steps. Okay, let's turn around. I'm like, come on, you got 20 more in you. And then another 20 steps, and then another 10 steps. And just come on, 5 more. Just go a little bit there. We'll sit down, we'll take a break, and then we'll go back home. And then finally we sit down, we come over this little ridge line. We sit down. I'm like, just relax. He's like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing no more steps. We're going home. I'm tired of this. I can't do this. And I go, look over your shoulder. And he turns around and he looks over and he goes, is that what I think it is? I said, yeah, that's the summit. I said, get up, man. He gets up and he
made it to the top?
Puts the leg back on, and I take the rope off him. He said, what are you doing? I'm like, you're okay, man. It's this is a real nice, easy path. You're not going to die on it. I'm like, this ain't about the war. This ain't about your family. This is all about you. I didn't carry you up here. You got your ass up here. So get up there and go take what's yours. Go get it. And he took those last 100 steps, and I sat there. And I watched him dragging that prosthetic leg, and he got to the summit, and he threw his arms up, and he's screaming, and he's yelling, I did it, man, I did it. And he's screaming, he's crying. And I'm sitting there watching this, all unfold. And I'm like, holy shit. And I had a climbing buddy of mine came and filmed it. And after he's going through this whole thing, I'm like, all right, let's go. We got to get out of here. He's like, I ain't leaving. You better get up here. And it dawned on me. I was like, because at this point I've summited, all the biggest mountains around the world at this point. And it was the first time in my climbing career, per se, that the last thing on my mind was getting up to the summit and taking that picture and going back home and putting the picture of me on the summit of Elbrus in Russia on my mantle and telling my boys, oh yeah, I just climbed Mount Everest. That was the last thing on my mind. Watching him take those last 100 steps, it it changed my life.
Okay, you're making me cry like a right now, so we're stopping. Okay.
Well, I'll finish it up with this. That was the moment when, because you got to understand something at this point in my life, it was boxing, jiu-jitsu, skydiving, motorcycle racing, all these things. I realized that these were all solo sports. It's all about Tim, the motherfucking Tim show. And that moment on that summit, watching him take those last 100 steps, that was the moment when the Tim show finally died. And that's when the Heroes Project was born.
Dude, you are a hero.
Nah, I ain't the hero. These guys are the hero. Climbing a mountain with no legs, that's hero. And serving his country. And I never served my country. I was in Hell's Angels, different kind of military.
You weren't in the military?
Never. My dad was.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Is that your dad's dog tag?
No, it's Chrome Hearts, fancy.
Oh, Chrome Hearts.
Hollywood guy,
I love that.
It's part of my look.
I got it. Everybody needs a look.
Yeah. Anyway, so the reason why the whole Heroes Project got started was just my way of serving the guys who served me, because I never served. And it was my way of being a proud American and giving back to these guys, because I never signed the dotted line.
I'm the exact way.
Yeah.
I have the exact same feeling about the military. I cannot be of service to them enough because, man, I was so stupid as a child and I was raised by wolves. I had no clue about the military.
Yeah.
Like, I never gave it a thought, and plus I was so ravaged by drugs.
Yeah.
You know how that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what I love most about that story? These people didn't think they could do anything.
None.
They thought their life was over.
Yeah.
They would never be the same. They'd never get another girl.
Yeah.
They'd never have kids. They'd never be able to do what they used to do in life. That has changed their whole outlook on life. If you can climb Mount Everest with a stump, okay, there's nothing you can't do. That's what it tells them. You have changed their entire lives. You understand this, right? Does that make you uncomfortable?
Doesn't make me uncomfortable. I had, for me, when I was going through, when I got out of the hospital bed and I got out of the wheelchair, the squeezing the ball thing didn't work for me. The rehab units didn't work for me. I had to take it into my own hands and go climb a mountain and put myself, in harm's way. Right. And that was my vehicle to getting from the summit, from the hospital bed to being a man again, to get my life back. And my vehicle was climbing mountains. So I just figured, well, that worked for me. Maybe I have something to offer these guys, because, I broke every bone in my body. I had metal everywhere. I said, but no comparison to losing a limb or two limbs. Some of these guys I've worked with, but so that I can't compare with my injuries, but I could relate with what it's like going from the hospital bed and being pushed around in a fucking wheelchair and people holding the door for you after I just would, walk into a bar, and be on top of the world, or walk into a restaurant and just being on top of the world and being a bouncer and, and riding a Harley, and doing all the tough guy, right? And next thing you know, I'm in a wheelchair and people are feeling sorry for me. And so here's this kid who joins the Marine Corps. He gets out, right? And he's got the buzz cut. He's back home for a weekend, home. And he's, used to carrying an M60 around the battlefield. He's got a platoon of guys under his command. He walks into a bar. He comes out with 10 phone numbers from every hot chick in the bar, right? And next thing you know, boom, steps on an IED. And now he's in a wheelchair, missing legs. And everybody's feeling sorry for him. And that's the part I could relate with. And so I figured, if this is my type of rehabilitation, maybe this might work for them. And a lot of these guys, there's a lot of worthy organizations out there, fly fishing, therapeutic fly fishing, and horse therapy, and, all this adaptive golf and all these things, right? But some of these guys, it doesn't work for them. And the only way to really, truly rehab these guys is you have to put them back on the battlefield again to truly heal them and get them back to be the Marine they were.
That makes sense to me.
You know, and so
let me ask you a question. You know any of these veterans or military people that were addicted to drugs at the time?
all of them. Let me say that. I'm saying that loosely because when I meet most of these guys, you know, they're coming right out of the hospital. You know, they got them on gabapentin, all these nerve meds, and pain pills, and, you know, all these.
How do they get off of it?
Well, interesting is that
they can't go up Everest on opioids.
Exactly. And that's always the first conversation I have when we start training. I'm like, we got to get you off this because these types of narcotics, they affect your respiratory system. Mm-hmm. And that's the last thing you want at 20,000 feet.
That's that, dude. You think you're doing great and you think you're hauling ass.
Yeah.
And you're moving in slow motion like you're on Thorazine.
Yeah.
It's like it just doesn't make sense to me. So how do you get these guys clean before they're training to go up to Everest?
I put them back in harm's way. I put them on a mountain. And then they realize at, you know, even small mountains here in Southern California, 10,000 foot mountain. And then they realize I don't even have to. Like, I give them the whole speech about the drugs ain't going to work and the nerve meds and all these pain pills and shit. And you get them at 10,000 feet and they're like, you know, on their knees, gasping for air and just falling apart, going, oh shit, this ain't working. This doesn't work together. This ain't peanut butter and jelly. Drugs and climbing mountains in the outdoors just doesn't work. And so it's a natural evolution of it. And so the therapy that I give these guys, you can't get from the local drug dealer. You can't get from CVS and Walgreens. My therapy that I give these guys is giving them outdoors, natural endorphins, right?
Do you know who it helps the most?
Who's that?
Who do you think?
The man upstairs?
No.
Who's it helped the most? Their friends and family, everybody around them?
God, man, you are such a hero. You don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, do you?
Clueless.
You're the one that benefits the most.
No,
listen to me. You're the one that benefits the most. Because you can't think about yourself when you're helping others. It's impossible. Okay? And that gives you meaning and that gives you joy.
One of the hardest things I had to do this whole journey is tell people that I can't help them because I can't afford to house them. I can't bring them out to Los Angeles. All my programs are here in the local mountains in California. I need to build a retreat center. So I start reaching out, come to find out there's not one retreat center in the entire state of California. So I approached the Forest Service. I find this great piece of land up on Mount Baldy, which is literally an hour from this podcast studio. And that's where I train a lot of the guys. I train them. That's the first step before I get them to the big mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this great piece of property, no Wi-Fi, no cell phone zone, completely away from all the city. But you can see Hollywood in the distance from the top of the mountain. Went to the Forest Service, gave them my idea. I want to do this great thing, bring it back to life, this old property. They went for it. 5 years dealing with federal bureaucracy. A year and a half ago, they gave me my permit to build. And then I went to the county.
Stop. 5 years to get a permit.
Yes.
To do God's work.
Yeah, 5 years.
California, you suck.
Well, it gets worse.
Uh-huh.
So that's the federal government.
I just want to move. I want to move.
No,
I just hate this place.
I know, but
I hate it.
Yeah, I get it. But look out the window. It's 80 degrees in sunshine.
Dude.
And I got
It's 80 degrees in sunshine in Florida.
I ride a motorcycle every single day. I got 3 10,000 foot mountains that are an hour from the Sunset Strip. We got the best restaurants. There's a lot of good in California, right? As long as you put aside all the politics and all the bullshit, that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you don't ever turn on television, okay, or ever speak to anybody, California's great.
Yes. So after this 5.5 year journey with the federal government, which is the U.S. Forest Service, they approved it. Said, okay, we're going to let you build it. Now I got to go to the county and get my actual building permit.
I can't hear it. I'm going to get aggravated.
And that was,
if you hear it, I'm going to snap. I'm going to lose control.
So, hey,
okay.
Good news. I got good news, though. It ends with a really great story.
All right.
So after a year and 10 months, almost 2 years, I just received word last week that I'm getting my building permit. next week. We're doing a groundbreaking ceremony.
After 7 years?
6.5, yes.
Dude,
yes.
You could have been a doctor.
Well, here's the good news. The good news is that we're going to actually put the hard hats on, dig the shovels into the ground.
When's this happen?
Memorial Day weekend on Friday afternoon. We're going to start it.
This is Memorial Day?
Yep. And we start building. But because of this journey that I've been through, I figure I got enough money to last us about 6 months. So to build this thing ain't going to be cheap. It's going to be about $7 million. And
that was not a problem.
But it is a problem when you're telling people, I'm going to build this veteran retreat center. It doesn't exist in California. We're going to do this and that. Like, well, when you're doing it. Now that we're actually digging, now we go into fundraising mode, and then building this thing that doesn't exist in this state will be here long before we're gone.
I'm out.
And that's where I'm out right. That's where I'm at right now.
I'm out. So here's where the rubber meets the road. What can, and dude, I'm telling you right now, okay? I've been doing this 6.5 months, okay? I can't believe how many people are watching this. I don't even deal with the listening part of it, the Apple and the Spotify. I don't even care, okay? This is I watch the YouTube because I want to see. I want to connect.
Yeah.
I don't even talk to people on the phone. If I can't FaceTime them, I don't even want to speak to them.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, because I want to
25.
I want to connect with you.
I get friends that get pissed off when I FaceTime them.
Dude, I was doing this like the minute FaceTime came out. I said, Mike, you could do this?
Yeah.
And I've been doing it, and people think I'm a weirdo. And I'm
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I'm like, look, if your pants around your ankles, you're sitting on the okay, I get it, okay? But like, why can't we just talk? I can't see. You're in New York. I'm in LA.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, there's nothing.
No. What's wrong with taking a FaceTime call on?
Yeah, I'm not talking that FaceTime on this shit. It ain't happening.
Everybody thinks that. I call everybody while I'm on because I sleep 3 hours a night as it is. I work 20 hours a day around the clock. It's like what? I mean, I'm not going to, it's like, come on, that you do your best thinking in the shower and on the toilet. Yes or no?
Yes, but there's one thing you're missing here.
Give it away.
That's called me time. Not our time, that's me time.
Oh, I don't have any me time.
Yeah.
I don't have any me time.
Yeah, well, you got to have some me time. It's like when I bring these guys up to the mountains, right? It's a complete disconnect. And I have a very strict no cell phone policy with the guys.
Right.
And they always question, well, I'm just going to take my phone to take pictures. And I'm like, nah, this is how it works. You want to come on the program, there's no cell phones. It'll be there in your truck when we get off the mountain. What's the problem? I said, because we're going to be up on that mountain, and we're sitting in that tent, right? And then all of a sudden, you're going to take your phone out. It won't work. There's no cell phone, no Wi-Fi. And then you start scrolling through text messages, photos, and just that simple action. You know what that does? That takes you off the mountain and puts you down there.
That's right.
And I don't want you down there. I need you up here. I need you in the now. I need you to take all this shit in. And it's been a big factor in rehabilitating these guys is just that disconnect from all the noise down here, wives and kids and, bills and all the shit comes along with the noise. You need to just disconnect.
What I want to know is, how do people support you? Where can they donate? How can they get involved in the Heroes Project?
Well, it's definitely not a PSA message. It's not the reason why I came on this podcast.
No. This is why you're here, because this is why I say you're here, because you're doing God's work. And there are people out there that are going to be, dude, I cried twice on this thing. Okay. There are going to be people that are moved by this thing, and they're going to want to give. And a lot of people listen to this, like a couple 100,000 people are watching every episode now. So where can people donate? How can they be of service?
Heroesproject.org. Go on there. It tells you everything about what we're building. We're having a groundbreaking ceremony this Memorial Day. But yeah, heroesproject.org. It's got everything on there. You donate to there. There's all kinds of different things. You can buy a damn hat. Every little bit counts,
You just bought me this hat.
Yeah, that's a limited edition right there, brother.
It's a limited edition?
Chrome Hearts hat right there.
Do I wear it like this?
No.
Like that?
No, I think you should go backwards with it.
Backwards?
Yeah.
But then you can't. No, I'm not doing.
No, you're not doing it.
I like the Heroes Project. That's what I want. The Heroes Project.
The coolness factor just went up like 10 notches right now.
Did it? Not really.
Yeah, it did actually.
Are you kidding? I'm 58. There's no 50. There are no cool 58-year-olds.
Yeah.
Maybe like Brad Pitt and George Clooney, but other than that, they're no cool 58. Oh, Downey. He's the coolest.
You got a podcast now. That's cool, right?
Yeah, that's
spreading the word. You got 200,000 followers. That's cool. You're doing something, right?
No, the 200,000 viewers. But by the end of the year, I'm pretty sure we're going to have 1 million viewers.
That's good, man.
Per episode.
It's corny, but what we do in this lifetime, that goes in eternity. Right?
Oh my God. Do you know what's crazy? I don't even want to get into that. All right. So check it out.
Check it out. Heroesproject.org.
Where can people reach you? Because, well, let's go
on the website.
Hey, man.
There you go.
We're going to leave on that winning.
Here we go. Done.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, bro.
I appreciate it. You ready to smoke a cigar?
Let's do it. See you next Tuesday. Bam.
That's it.
We're out of time. Please subscribe on YouTube, click the thumbs up, and leave a comment. Please subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify and leave a rating and a review. And share the We're Out of Time podcast with others you know who will get value out of it. See you next Tuesday.